Dev, you just came from your EV infrastructure session here at Transform 2024. What's the current state of EV charging infrastructure in the UK?
Yeah, I think it depends what you're reading. I think there's a lot of headlines out there right now that would suggest that the state of EV charging industry in the UK is a bit of a mess. That's not true at all. There's a lot of efforts going on from every stakeholder across there to improve the infrastructure right now. And I think actually, if you read the headlines in probably 24 months from now, that's what the comments will be making. There's an absolute glut of charging installations that are ready to go live. Grid is in place, planning is in place, the bulldozers have turned up and the digs are going on. So I would say actually, I would remind everyone that's supporting our sector or equally just casually listening in, is sometimes don't be misled by some of the headlines out right now. It's not as bad as it says.
Now, I suppose to be realistic as well, and you were on the panel, there are some challenges, right? So what are the challenges? And it's not necessarily the technology, right?
No, and I think I think the one challenge that collectively as an industry we've always had for some time is actually the grid, the electrical connections. It's not something, it's not new, right? It's actually the same complaint that we've all had, and that's not new, and that carries on. We're standing next to one of Siemens 400 kW chargers right now. That's big power, and particularly if you've got a number of these going into a site, you need some big grid connections at the same time. So that challenge remains, it still exists, and it will likely become a continually larger problem as well. And we've got to find ways, innovative ways to remedy that. I think the other problem we're starting to hit increasingly is planning. There is an element where you're deploying equipment in certain regions and the planning authorities are quite kind, say, no, absolutely, we get this solves the onward mobility needs from our local residents as well as the visitors as well, but equally there's some planning areas that we're having a little bit of a hard time, and actually there's a bit of a journey there to educate people around that as well. So that's increasingly becoming a bit of an issue where sites aren't quite working out the way we hoped. I would say the other one, which I'm starting to notice, us at E.ON are starting to notice, is consumer confidence, actually. The headlines, which you alluded to a few moments ago and we discussed on the panel as well, was a case of actually it isn't helpful that you've got an element of government potentially moving around and changing the position, the petrol and diesel ban being pulled back to 2035, elements like that, the congestion charge now applying to EVs at the same time. So this isn't helpful to consumer confidence. One of the E.ON has made a conscious decision, listening to our customers out there. They're looking at us and they're saying, well, you're a big power company, you're a big power utility, you're operating right across Europe. You understand how power works. Why don't you come and get involved in the electric vehicle charging space, particularly the public one where we've got the big equipment going in the ground. So that for us is actually a case of listening to our consumer base and saying, okay, come on, we're here to help as well. And we're here to actually help improve that consumer confidence.
And you mentioned that with E.ON, you guys are operating 11 different countries across Europe. So I'm guessing some of the lessons learned, the best practices you can bring back, and vice versa, from the UK back to Europe. Yeah,
absolutely. So the privilege we have for everyone that works in E.ON, it doesn't matter which part of the business, because it is a big business, we are present in most European countries as well. And from an EV charging perspective, particularly from a public EV charging perspective, you're right, we're operating in 11 different countries right now. And there's actually a reason for that. I'm certainly on point for helping develop the UK network, but I have daily conversations with my counterparts in Germany, Sweden, Czech Republic, Hungary, Netherlands. The list goes on because there is an enormous amount of lessons learned and shared learning going on. And what do I mean by that? We've been developing our public charge point network in the UK for just over 12 months or so. So we're not long, we're absolutely brand new, but there's something I repeatedly say is we need to copy with pride. And what I mean by that is actually looking at what we've done and actually what's worked really well. Great, we need to keep doing that. But at the same time, there's those lessons learned. What have we done in other territories? Hasn't quite worked for us. Well, okay.
Maybe not repeat the same
Absolutely,
feature.
And that actually is a real privilege sometimes with certainly E.ON in the UK developing its charge point network to say, look, actually, that doesn't work. Let's not do that because that's not what the consumer is asking for. But that absolutely works spot on right. We need to keep doing more of that. So there is a huge benefit to having a European-wide reach.
Now, I suppose as well, you mentioned it earlier, you see the type of equipment here behind us. You're designing for the future, not just for what we need today, but you're kind of looking out where is this headed, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the equipment's right behind us is a 400 kW Siemens charger. It's a quality, great piece of kit. But let's be real, actually, when we think about e-cars specifically, I don't think there's any e-car out
plug into
there, or certainly very,
need
very
it.
few. Absolutely right. You know, and even the few vehicles that potentially can get close to that level of power demand from a charger, like the one here, they're not going to hold on to that power curve for a long period of time. So I often ask myself, or what we're doing at E.ON is asking ourselves is, are we building the network for today, or are we building the network for tomorrow? And we are doing big infrastructure here. We are very comfortable in doing these projects over an extended period of time because we're not going anywhere. So for us, we absolutely want to do the big stuff, because even if it's not right for the vehicle drivetrains that are available right now, it will be right for the ones that are coming, absolutely. And for us, it's really important to develop a network out there that the consumer is going to plug into and have confidence in as well. So part of getting that big equipment in the ground is to show to the consumers out there, look, your vehicle is somewhat future-proof with the infrastructure that's going in the ground. And that's really important to us. So we are building the network for the future, not for today.
Now, I suppose leading into that as well, if I may, in terms of the demand, everyone was spared on the panel you were talking about the e-buses, but e-trucks seem to be the new hot topic as well. And again, you charge 5 or 6 big trucks at the same time. That's huge infrastructure.
Yeah. The trucks have a massive power request. There is practically different challenges with deploying e-truck electrification, and I think some of it's quite obvious in terms of physically you just need more space. Physically the chargers have a different form of protection. Let's also remember the truck drivers themselves, they have the protocols in there in terms of rest times, things like that. What I would say, what we're doing at E.ON is working quite closely with MAN trucks as well. That's quite an exciting project for both businesses, E.ON and MAN included, because we are going to work with them to develop Europe's first pan-European e-truck charging network. So we are going to be electrifying all of MAN's depots right across Europe. And that for us is a massive market signal to say, look, actually, we recognize there are not many e-trucks being used or being deployed right now out there. But we're very comfortable in making that sort of investment, because that's what we do. We are here to build the network for the future. Absolutely right. And that for us is actually the key thing, and working with a vehicle manufacturer that equally has the foresight to say, let's do this, let's get involved. And that is right across Europe, not just isolated to the UK.
Now, if I may, personally, 5-10 years down the line, where ideal world, where do you see this?
Yeah, you know, I think in an ideal world, I'm having fun. You know, and I always tell everybody working in our sectors, are you having fun? Because this is supposed to be enjoyable. And I'm often getting the comment back, it's like, yeah, we're having a good time, actually, let's enjoy this. You know, there is clearly levels of animosity against the sector, but we have a responsibility to take those people with us at the same time. But 5-10 years from now, you know what I really think about is actually all of the equipment, like the stuff going on behind us right now, actually it's hopefully there to inspire my children, the little people as well, because they can touch and feel it. This stuff isn't going anywhere. It's going to be in the ground for decades to come. And I'm quite excited about inspiring the next generation to come and get involved with our sector as well.
Okay, interesting times ahead. Good stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.